the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, March 16th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What is up, guys?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Not much, man. Free agency. Happy new league year to you guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, one and all. And, of course, this marks our third season as a show. So if you're out there listening, welcome. Hope you guys have enjoyed the journey. We're just picking up steam, have a long road ahead of us. And, man, do we have a show for you guys today. If you've been following us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, a little bit of a shameless plug there, you'll probably have noticed that there's been a lot of news. And, we're not exactly going to be powering through it all. We're going to power through it, but we're not going to be hitting on every single thing because it's just way too much to talk about. We're going to do our best to kind of fly through and kind of recap the free agency to this point. As of this recording, I mean, we only know what we know. By the time you're listening to this, I mean, if it's later today on Friday or at some point over the weekend, you probably know more than we do because more moves, I'm sure, have happened. But we're going to do our best to recap everything that's happened to this point. I mean, how are you guys doing today? You guys feeling pretty good? You guys ready for this? You enjoying the new league year?
I'm ready to go head first into this show. Let's go.
Yeah? You ready?
Yeah.
Jason, how about you, bud?
Born ready, man.
Born ready. All right, well, for our warm-up, we do have one today. I mean, again, Happy New Year. And, you know, we could have done this back at actual New Year's, but we figured this makes more sense, being a fantasy football show, that we talk about it during the new football league year. And this question simply is, what is your New Year's fantasy resolutions? What will you not be doing that you've done in the past or that you want to change from the way you approach fantasy in 2017 when you're going forward into the 2018 season? You guys have any resolutions that you're planning on living by this year?
That's a good one. Well, you know what? I messed myself up last year because I put too much faith in unproven running backs, and that's something I'm not going to do this year. I'm going to stick a little bit more to the analytical side when I'm choosing my players this year, I think.
All right, that's a good approach. CJ, you got one?
Yeah, I got one. I've been a little bargain bin shopping when it comes to the wide receiver position. I mean, it's helped me out the last couple of years. I've gotten to the championship, but to get to that next level, like I want to, and win the title in a couple leagues that I really do have invested time in, I think I'm gonna actually have to start spending a lot of money as far as the auction goes on some top wide receivers. I know it's going to just make me mad to no end because the money, that's just right now it's frustrating me.
I know, it makes you feel dirty to even say it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it this year.
Yeah. For me, I'm kind of on the same page as Jason when it comes to analytics. I mean, obviously, that's my approach, but I'm definitely going to be even more wary of the faces in new places. And also, kind of along the lines with what you said, CJ, I'm going to have to start paying up a little bit more for certain positions. Of course, we talk about payment and how much we're going to spend because though we focused on your typical redraft, snake draft style of drafting, that's the norm. That's what 95% or more of people out there play. We are big auction drafters here on the show. If anyone's been with us for any time at all, they know this about us. And so I'm thinking I might have to start pennying up a little bit more at some of my positions, specifically the tight end position. I'm still very confident in my ability to stream quarterbacks. I do that. I like to think very well. It's paid off very well for me for a very long time. But in our big league of record, and I know no one cares about our fantasy leagues, but I mean, tough. We're talking about it. We have a 2 tight end league, so I've gotta be more aggressive. I think pulling the trigger on one of those top tight ends so that I can at least have a mainstay and then maybe stream just the secondary tight end because I was in a constant show of jumping back and forth from like Austin Swearinger-Jenkins to Charles Clay and various other streaming candidates all last year.
Charles Clay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I haven't heard that name in years.
I mean, months, but yes.
That's a bad situation for you guys.
It worked at times.
And he was on IR this past season.
It worked at times. He did wind up being pretty banged up at times during the year. This is true. Austin Sperry-Jenkins had suspensions. You know,
He was good.
I made the moves for certain tight ends that were late round guys that I got for good prices. I thought would really break out. They didn't. So I mean, as we saw when we were recapping the tight end position, going back a couple shows ago, there's about 3 or 4 names that really separate themselves from the pack, and if I can get my hands on one of those, it's going to make my life a heck of a lot easier. I mean, I won the league doing this method, but I don't enjoy the method, if that makes sense. It's very stressful, and it worked for me, honestly, about as often as it didn't. So quarterbacks are easy to predict, tight ends not so much. I want to get one of those lockdown guys. I'm still not investing probably a higher round draft pick if I can help it in a typical draft, but in an auction, I'm going to have to probably penny up some cash. So that's my New Year's resolution, being a little bit more aggressive in drafts at times. I'm going to pick my battles. So with that, I guess let's move into our why we're all here. We're not doing our typical show format today. This is an all-news show. There's been nonstop news. This is the most news we've had since the season ended. And so, you know, our top headlines that we usually get into that segment, moving on to our topic of the day, it's all one big thing. So the way we're going to approach this show today, we're going to jump from conference to conference, and we're going to do our best to hit all 32 teams. We're going to I have a timer set right in front of me. We're going to have a maximum of 5 minutes on each team. Now, if we need less, I mean, not all these teams have made fantasy impacts. Our focus for this show is obviously fantasy football, so that's what we're talking about. That's why we're here. So, you know, it'll be easy to power through certain teams that have made defensive moves, but I'm putting my foot down. At 5 minutes, there's going to be a sound that I'll hear for everybody right now. Yep, that's our cue that we are moving on.
Can't stand your face.
I know. I can't either.
Did you just play the cue? Because I didn't hear it.
I sure did. I mean, I'll have to cue it
Damn
for
it,
you guys.
Jason,
but
you're breaking the fourth wall.
I know. Come on, Jason. The movie magic. Come on. So,
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, what a great cue.
Yeah.
Damn it, Jason.
Perfectly.
You already spoiled it.
Oh man, this is off the rails already. So I will yell to cue for you guys. I will blast the air horn, and we will move on. We're gonna do our best to keep it as close to an hour as possible. Because if we just talked like we love to do, we love football, we love fantasy, that's why we're here, we could easily talk for the next 3-4 hours about everything that's even happened to this point, who's still out there, our predictions on where these guys are going to go, and yeah, it's going to go way too long. So we're going to spend a maximum of 5 minutes on each team. Does that sound good, guys?
That sounds good.
That sounds amazing.
Sounds good. Are we ready? We're going to start, and we're going to go down the list from NFL.com. So we're going to start in the AFC East. We are going to start with the Buffalo Bills. Let me cue the timer right now. Ready, set, go. So the Buffalo Bills, they have made a couple moves already. As we already know, they signed A.J. McCarron, so they officially have a starting quarterback. Now, he signed a 2-year deal. Doesn't seem like they're committing to him long term, as we all kind of expected. Not surprising at all. They re-signed Kyle Williams, one of their big defensive tackles. He's been silently one of those most underrated guys in the league. He's a monster and has really stood out in IDP as well. For those of you who play IDP like we do, we love it. And just a couple of the defensive moves. So, I mean, obviously, they're not done. So, my question to you guys is, how do you feel about the moves they've made so far? What do you think about A.J. McCarron's fit in Buffalo, and where do you think they're going to go from here?
I mean, I like what to me, I think the Kyle Williams thing, that's very smart. He's a good culture guy for the locker room. You don't have young pieces already in there thinking if he did leave, they're like, okay, I got to step up and, you know, insert my leadership and stuff like that. No, that's not your place. Let it come naturally. So I like that fit right there. He's the big dog in there, and then, you know, everybody else is going to follow suit. And as far as A.J. McCarron go, I mean, I did call this, so I do like this pick for him.
You did.
To be able to go out there, you know, have the opportunity to prove himself and show that, you know, he can be a good, you know, Alex Smith-esque type quarterback in that system, and that might work. It might actually work for them in that system for me. So that's the moves I like. I still think they're kind of lacking in the wide receiver position.
Oh, absolutely.
So I want to see what they're going to do with that. I think they do. They definitely need to address that in the draft.
I'm going to assume that they bring back Jordan Matthews as well, because, I mean, it's an option for them. I don't know. Well, Jason, what are your thoughts?
You know, I do like the play to go get A.J. McCarron because he's going to get an opportunity to prove himself. He's going to be either a a decent starter, or he's going to be a bust, and they're going to have the opportunity to grab somebody else later. They're talking about taking somebody anyway in the draft.
Oh, so they're loading up on
with
picks.
That number 12. Exactly.
Oh, I bet they move up.
Number 12, grab one of those guys. And I hope they don't, for my Cardinals' sake. But the bottom line is, you got AJ McCarron. He needs some weapons, though. I completely agree with you guys. I think they need to address that more importantly, really, if they're really interested in keeping McCarron on.
Yeah, well, I mean, they still have Kelvin Benjamin, which is good. They still have Charles Clay, but I agree. I don't think he is the answer. I don't think they think he's the answer long term. They like him, but I think that Buffalo has been loading up on picks. They've been trading away players, and they've been loading up on picks, some ammunition. I don't even think it's a bold prediction at this point. I don't expect them to pick at 12. I think they're going to move up. They're going to grab one of those earlier quarterbacks, and they're going to have him sit behind A.J. McCarron for a year or two, and then hopefully that player can take the reins and move on. So it'll be whoever that rookie is, A.J. McCarron, Nathan Peterman. That's going to be their quarterbacks. They need weapons, though. That's really what it boils down to. And so I have to assume they're not done. But, the wide receiver market is, for instance, not doing so good. Running back wise, obviously they have LaShawn McCoy. They picked up Chris Ivory. So they've got weapons, but if this team wants to be competitive, they've got to make other moves. Zay Jones needs to step up. That's a for instance as well. I don't know. Do you guys see any obvious solutions, anything you think that they might pursue, or do you think that it's going to probably be a wait and see till the draft at this point?
I mean, there's a mixture, couple guys out there free agency-wise. I mean, name is coming off of me. Guy that's trying to bet on himself is, Terrell Pryor. That might be something. I know, Griffin, you're probably going to hate this name, but Jeremy Maclin, he might be a dude that, they can do something with that. So there's names out there can be plug holes, some stopgaps for right now. And then, of course,
1 minute warning.
Definitely got to do it in the draft.
Yep. Jason, anything you want to add?
I mean, there's still some pieces out there that could have some nice upside. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think they're going to maybe grab one or two more guys, but then they're going to rely on the draft.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and move on. So now we are moving on to the Miami Dolphins. Guys, what are your thoughts on Miami's move to this point? I honestly am incredibly confused by what they've done here because, they paid Danny Amendola. They brought him in. They've made a lot of other moves. This is a team that's over the cap as it is. They, of course, traded away Jarvis Landry. Miami is in an interesting predicament. They're not over the cap anymore, but they're still pretty darn close to it. They still need to purge some salary cap space. There it is. In order to even sign rookies. Obviously, they cut Ndamukong Suh, which was, something they had to do to clear cap space. But even Mike Pouncey, who, a longtime center for them, had requested to be released, and then they made a trade for a cheaper center. They're making moves, but I think that everyone out there that's been watching them make these moves are agreeing that they are pretty much downgrading across the board just to fit under the cap. What are you guys' thoughts on Miami to this point?
Yeah, that's absolutely what I was thinking, is that they're downgrading. I mean, you had Jarvis Landry, who's lights out, and you go out and go Danny Amendola, who Danny Amendola is very good, don't get me wrong, but he does not have the upside of Jarvis Landry. So They definitely downgraded. They took a step back a little bit, and maybe it's a calculated move. Maybe they're planning on going, and like you said, in the draft and really trying to load up and do those kinds of things. But right now, it just feels like they're kind of going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, for me, I think Miami, this is just poor management, poor GM, just poor front office work on them across the board. I mean, you send out your top running back, and then you try to bring somebody else in there because now you don't believe in Kenyon Drake, even though he did show you promise that this guy can, take over the reins.
He looked good.
But once again, you don't show faith and confidence in him, and that's going to affect them going to the next year. What you do in defense, okay, you want to make the move on shipping out Ndamukong Suh, but yet you bring in an aging, a guy in Robert Quinn that has not shown the promise that he did after that great season that he had because of the back injury. So, you're losing stuff on there. And they got another year of Cameron Wake. I respect the guy, but, I mean, he's not getting any younger. And then if you're not getting help on the other side, you're not the play is going to go down. And then back to these receivers, you get rid of Jarvis Landry. So now you're expecting Steele to step up. You're expecting Parker to step up. it's a lot of stuff going on right here that I don't know if this team is going to, show promise or even be competing. I mean, to be honest, I think they're already tanking for next year just off the moves that they're making.
I agree. I mean, they went from Robert Quinn to, or from Ndamukong Suh to Robert Quinn. They went from Mike Pouncey to Daniel Kilgore. They went from Jarvis Landry to Danny Amendola. They're downgrading across the board. A lot of this is helping. I mean, like I said, they're under the cap. They've got $2.5 million to play with at this point, which is not a comfortable spot to be in. They're really going to have to make more moves, but they're not putting Ryan Tannehill really in a position to succeed right now. So, I mean, look, I, as we all know, am a big Devontae Parker truther. But him and Kenny Stills, they can't handle the load alone. Kenyon Drake's there, who we like, but they keep talking about wanting to bring competition in for him. This team just, I feel like at times they don't have direction. So, I mean, I understand. Look, they made good moves, plugging holes and really making some lateral movements at times to save cap space. But I mean, I would say that they've been a loser of this offseason to this point. Would you all agree with that?
Yeah, it's confusing because it's like you want to really point the finger and see where the blame is, because you look at Adam Gates, you love the coach, you love what he can be able to do, but you keep getting these bad reports where he's talking about players that he can't mess with, and we say this all the time when it comes to these coaching staffs. Why won't you adjust? I mean, good coaches know how to adjust their scheme, their system to fit their players, and he seems like one of those guys where it's his way or the highway, and then now you're starting to see a little bit of Chip Kelly sneak back into the league again, and now these good players, I mean, Jarvis Landry, J.J. still good players. Marquis Pouncey, good player. Ndamukong Suh in the right system, good player. They're going to go out and shine, and then Miami's going to be looking out like
all those guys still in their prime.
What the hell did we just do?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Jason, anything you want to add? We got about 40 seconds left.
I think this is going to be something that we're going to talk about a lot with different teams. They let these players walk away because of the price tag, and they bring in other lesser players, and it's like, you know what, you're not making your team better. You're saving money, but that's all you're doing is saving money. You're not improving.
I agree. All right, so with that, let's move on. We are moving on to the New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots, we unfortunately do. I mean, sorry, Patriots fans out there.
I love to move on.
Do you now? Interesting. Only because you beat them in the Super Bowl, CJ, of course. Resident Eagles fan.
That's true. That's what it is.
One move that they have made that is, I mean, I would say it's a good move, but it just further dilutes things. They re-signed Rex Burkhead, so, I mean, that's a good deal. Yeah. Other than that, they haven't made any other acquisitions. They've let players like Danny Amendola, Malcolm Butler, Dion Lewis, Nate Solder, they all have departed. They've got a number of free agents still out there that they could try to bring back, but they don't seem necessarily to be gunning to do so. Not much to talk about the Patriots right now because, they've basically let everybody depart. So I guess that leaves us talking about Rex Burkhead. What do you guys think about this move?
Well, I mean, I like the move with Rex Burkhead because, the things that he was doing when he was healthy, he showed great promise. And especially, as far as fantasy goes, later down rounds, I'm going to be looking for him because he doesn't have any competition behind him. I mean, you can say James White, but I don't.
James White really and Mike Gillislee.
Yeah,
they both play
really
roles.
Believe in that.
But
I don't believe in that.
He's a 3-down
back.
Rex.
I like Rex Burkhead. I definitely like him, and going forward, I think he's going to be very productive in that system, especially with no Dion Lewis there. And as far as the other moves that the Patriots make, this is just Patriot-esque, man. This is what they do. If they see the talent that they have there, they price it out. If they think it's going to be too much, they'll let them go out there, see what the price range is. If they want to bring them back, they bring them back. If they don't, then hey, they'll either try to trade them or just. They cut their losses. That's just what the system is with the Patriots.
Super cap-friendly deal. 3-year, $9.75 million contract. So, I mean, the Patriots are sitting pretty right now. $22.5 million under the cap. I'm interested to see what they're saving for right now, if I'm honest. Jason, do you have any thoughts?
Well, this is just Patriots. I mean, they're cold-blooded. They don't care who you are, how good you are. They go, you know what? This is a business. This is what we're trying to do. We're not concerned about how great you've been. That's wonderful. Now go be great somewhere else, and we're going to be just fine. And that's how the Patriots operate.
Yep. So, I mean, we'll be looking, of course, at Tom Brady under center. Rex Burkhead, we're assuming, is going to be the starting 3-down running back. The other two serve specific roles, and we know the Patriots don't like to show their hand by having those guys in all the time. I guess that leaves Julian Edelman, Brandon Cooks as the starting wide receivers. Edelman will be back. Gronk, we assume, will be back. We don't really know at this point, but the news is all hinting towards that. And the defense is all pretty much the same except for Malcolm Butler. So, obviously, they lost their left tackle in the process, but I mean, this team, more or less, for fantasy purposes, remains pretty much the same. So I guess with that, we'll move on. We'll make up some time. And I guess that only leaves one team left, and that is the New York Jets, a team that has so much cap space left, it's borderline sickening. They have the most cap space, $82.5 million right now. I would expect them to make plenty of moves before this is all said and done. Obviously, they they re-signed Josh McCown, which, that works. But they also picked up Teddy Bridgewater. He signed a 1-year deal, which was for $15 million, I believe, if I remember correctly. They brought in Isaiah Crowell, which I'm not in love with the pick, if I'm honest, because I get that he is, he's a piece. He's probably going to be a first, second down back, but I don't see him as being incredibly different from Isaiah Crowell. I see him as being relatively similar, maybe younger, maybe an upgrade.
Isaiah Crowell.
What?
You mean
said
Powell?
Oh, Bilal Powell. Yeah, sorry. Bilal Powell, Isaiah Crowell. You know what I meant.
Does Isaiah Crowell have a twin?
Yeah.
They being different than Isaiah Crowell?
Sorry. They also signed, of course, Tremaine Johnson, the top corner in the free agency. So, I mean, they're making some moves to shore up positions, but this is a team that's still very much in the thick of a rebuild, and they have a long ways to go. This is a favorite landing spot, as we were talking about off the show as well, for free agent I just call him defensive back because he moves all around the field, Tyrann Mathieu, reconnecting with Todd Bowles. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about the Jets right now?
They're intriguing because they do have so much cap space. They have so much ability to move around and do some stuff. I'm shocked that they weren't very aggressive to begin things, like immediately because of the amount of cap space. They could have really picked up a lot of those top-level guys, and they really haven't. So, interesting. And again, Josh McCown, fine, I guess, whatever. But,
wow.
So, well, I mean, come on, it's Josh McCown. It's not someone that's going to wow you or go out and do a lot of great things, but he's solid. He's played long enough in the league. He's a vet, so great. But I'm intrigued to see what they do going forward, and obviously what they do in the draft.
I mean, they got him for pretty cheap. It's only a 1-year, $10 million contract for him, then 1-year, $15 prove-it deal for Teddy Bridgewater. So, I mean, they're not committing to anything right now.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. They probably could have gotten the water boy to play and paid less.
Yeah,
for that, but,
I mean, they could have, but that's just rude.
I'm sorry. He was an Arizona Cardinal. I can't stand the guy. But
wow.
Teddy Bridgewater is the thing for me. Is the real big move that they made that this could be great for them. I mean, he could end up being their guy. Teddy Bridgewater is going to be great for them, I think, down the road. He can be that guy, and that's why the Vikings held on to him as long as they did. So that's going to be great. And then, of course, they went out. They're looking at possibly bringing in a Honey Badger. If they bring in Tyrann Mathieu, that's going to shore up that
also requires sad music. Phenomenal. The Honey Badger going there. So let's play some more sad music. There we go. So as you were saying, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Sad music? Go ahead. Play the sad music.
So much sad music playing over you right now.
I know. I'm going to miss the kid. He is phenomenal talent when he's healthy. As long as he stays healthy, that's the scary thing. The guys that they're bringing in that have all this upside, Teddy Bridgewater, Tyrann Mathieu, they have extensive injury history. So that's the question. Like I said, I'm intrigued by this team. I'd love to see what's going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, me too, man. I think re-signing Josh McCown, I really like that. The team is basically embraced them, especially this past rookie class, man. You can see it all on their Twitter feed and their IG and everything like that. So I like that move. And then picking up Bridgewater, I think this puts them in the position where they don't have to go quarterback right here because they've been having trouble finding a quarterback in the future through the draft. They just don't have. I don't know if they have the right minds around them right now. Maybe they got a little Ozzie Newsome going on, how he is with receivers. They're bad.
You leave
right
Ozzie
now.
out of this.
Quarterback.
He didn't do anything to you.
So, Yeah, honestly, I'll get you in a second. We'll be talking
Hasn't
about
done
it in a
anything for
second.
you either.
So,
Shut up.
So I think, so I like this. They put them in a better position to be able to pick players up in the draft right now that's fits the system and the scheme when it comes to defense or offense, and that can help them grow with that. So I think right now on offense they definitely need to work on the offensive line. Defense, they need to get that defensive line together. Some linebackers. I like the corner. I mean, I like a corner on there. So I think you need to go ahead and address the other side. So there's a lot of holes here. So getting a quarter, not being able to be forced to pick a quarterback helps them out tremendously. So I like that.
All right, and with that, let's move on. We are going to go to the NFC East, and we will start with the Dallas Cowboys. Not much to say about the Dallas Cowboys, considering they haven't picked anyone up yet. They've had a couple departures, and a lot of their free agents are still free agents. But I don't know. Do you guys have any moves that you're expecting to see the Cowboys make in the immediate future?
I expect them to move from one side of the couch to the other.
Wow, that seems unnecessary. Is this entire NFC East portion going to be just super biased from you, CJ?
What? They haven't done anything because they don't have any money, and then the people that they want to bring in, they're getting bend over a barrel because you gotta give up a lot of draft picks, and right now Jerry and Jerry's son, they don't want to let that go. So you spent all your money picking up DeMarcus Lawrence. You said that you made that to be your priority. Guess what? You got the job done. But now this is what you got going on in Jerry world. You got a lot of very average players on defense. You're gonna need to step up tremendously, and I don't see them doing that.
Dallas Cowboys with the third least cap space right now, only $3 million to play with. So
It's gonna be pretty bad in Dallas.
I don't see them making many moves unless they offload some folks. Obviously, there's some players that have been talked about and rumored about for a while now, but until those possibilities actually occurred, I don't see them doing very much. So I don't know, anything you want to add, Jason, or we get to move on?
This team needs some receivers. My goodness, I mean, they've got like one receiver, and then everybody else is like, who? So this team really, especially since they got such a great running game, a great running back.
How dare you disrespect Cole Beasley and Terrence Williams?
I will not. I'm not disrespecting them. They're good for what they are. They are role players.
They are.
But you need to get in somebody who's a number two with a high ceiling who could eventually take over that number one position whenever Des Bryant moves on or is done.
Des Bryant, a 2010 first-round pick, hasn't been living up to it. We talked about this extensively.
At all.
Terrence Williams is less than explosive. Like everybody hopes he would be this big outside threat. He's not at all. Cole Beasley, I mean, he's a slot guy. Jason Witten is ancient. At least they have Ezekiel Elliott coming back. But, yeah, this team needs a lot of love, and they need some upgrades, and they just don't have the cap space to really work with it right now. So I think that they're planning to do most of their work through trades and through the draft, so I guess we can go ahead and move on. And we will go to the next team, and that would be the New York Giants, the football Giants. They have had an offseason. They've made some moves. They have re-signed a couple players of their own, which are, Robert Thomas, Mark Herzlich, I think is how you say his name, outside linebacker. But the biggest things that they've done is they've brought in some folks. They drastically, and I mean, holy crap, overpaid for Nate Soldier from the New England Patriots. They have a new left tackle, which is good to keep Eli Manning up. But they paid the guy 4 years, $62 million. He is now the highest paid offensive lineman in the league, and he's never even been to a Pro Bowl. So it's an interesting move. It's a bold strategy. We'll see if it pays off for them. They brought in Geno Smith as a backup quarterback as well. They signed Jonathan Stewart, which is interesting. Pretty cap-friendly deal, 2 years, $6.9 million. They need a lot of help in the run game. He's a veteran. He can, as we all know, be a little bit of a thumper between the tackles. So, I mean, it gives them some options. What do you guys think about the Giants thus far through free agency?
To be honest, I kind of like the moves that they've made. I think they're paying too much for that lineman. But overall, the big thing that one of their biggest problems has always been their offensive line. Their offensive line is bad. Their offensive line is bad. So they're going to go out, and they've picked up a couple guys to try to shore up that offensive line. So I like that. At least that shows that they're paying attention to the issues that they actually have. And then Jonathan Stewart is a solid running back. He's a solid North and South guy. That's what they like.
Yep.
So I kind of like the moves that they've made.
All right.
Yeah, we were talking before the show. The Jonathan Stewart move. I can see him being that Brandon Jacobs mode for them type of player. And so look, they're making the weaknesses and the bad rep this team has been getting about going out and addressing other positions outside the offensive line. That they're quieting it down. They're quieting it down so far. They're addressing those situations. It's going to be. It looks so far on paper look good. I mean, this team looked good last year on paper. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, you bring Alex Ogletree over. Definitely like that move. And there's the other these additions we make it to the offensive line. So right now, everything is looking good. They're doing some good things, and hopefully they can just continue to follow it up in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, peeling back the curtain here, by far the biggest move that they've made thus far, bringing in Alec Ogletree, a trade that we talked about. So not a free agency move, but it happened once the season started. I'm still amazed that the Rams parted ways with him, but now they have a solid contributor in the middle of their field, front seven, really good inside linebacker. So and a guy who's very much in his prime. So yeah, the defense is on its way, hopefully back to being what it was a couple years ago. The offense still needs some love, but they still have questions at the running game. They still have questions at quarterback behind Eli. Team that's sitting right now with the number 2 overall pick. So we'll definitely see how this plays out. Though we've heard that this is a team that might trade back. So we'll definitely see.
To Arizona.
With Arizona, if Jason has his way. So
I have my way. Shut up, CJ.
Wow.
Don't
All
fuck
right.
my bubble.
So anything else you guys want to add with the Giants thus far?
I'm good with the Giants.
Well, you're good, Jason. We're good. All right, we're moving on.
Good.
And we are moving on to the one and only. This is gonna be bad. CJ's Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have been making some serious moves, and this is a team that has a big problem because they're still the only team that's over the cap. Now, they've been making these moves. They've been clearing cap space. We talked about how they were, $13 million in the hole. Now they're only $600,000, so they're making good progress. They've been shipping off a lot of guys. They've been getting a bunch of other guys kind of on the cheap, acquiring them through trades. Some upgrades. They've even brought in some talent. I mean, they just recently signed Haloti Ngata. He still has a couple years left in him, I think. Obviously, defensive side. They did lose Trey Burton, but that was expected. Nobody was really expecting him to stay. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Eagles thus far this offseason? Because obviously, they haven't really made very many signings. They've been making more trades.
Yeah, well, I like what we've done so far. You addressed the needs of what that are important to us as far as like defense. We re-signed Nigel Bradham. He played a big part for us. So, it was good to see him get re-signed. I think that was going to put us in a hole if we didn't get him back. So we got that back. So that's a check off the box. Patrick Robinson, he was a good slot corner for us. He departed and went to the Saints. Best of luck to him. But, that cornerback room right now is pretty deep. I mean, they made that trade with the Carolina Panthers to bring in Worley, and they sent out what's my man's name? Torrey Smith. So that's once again, that's good. That helps you cap-wise, and you're bringing in some more talent as far as in the secondary, and he's a young cornerback that's still under contract. So I like that. And as far as offensive goes, I want to really see what this team's going to do as far as wide receivers. I mean, I like the youth and talent that we got in the wideout position, but I want to know, if there's somebody else out there like Michael Crabtree. I know he's visiting with another team right now. Yeah. But I would like to see him, or if even though he had a bad year last year, if a Terrell Pryor comes in there, maybe it's just some of these receivers needs to be in a fresh environment with good leadership in there to to boost them back up, and that might be it. But so far, I like the moves that we're making, and once again, Howie Roseman just being really smart and savvy, bringing these vets in here and keeping that defensive line fresh and causing havoc.
Big moves on the defensive side.
I love it.
Big moves. I mean, like I said, Haloti Ngata brought in. You mentioned Daryl Worley, a starting caliber corner. Let's not forget that they traded for Michael Bennett. So, I
Michael
mean,
Bennett.
this team is
big
shoring up a problem for them in the Super Bowl, which was being able to stop the other team's offense. And they're really pushing to really make the most out of this window while they have it. They're trying to kind of create a dynasty right now, and you can clearly see it, trying to play this close to the cap because they know they're not going to be able to play with it like this for too much longer because a couple years down the line they're going to have to pay their quarterback. Carson Wentz is going to eat a lot of cap, so take advantage while you can right now, and that's clearly what they're trying to do. Jason, you have any thoughts you want to add?
Well, CJ did a good job of covering most of it. I'll just say I really do like the fact that they're churning their roster a little bit, not the major pieces, but they're definitely churning their roster up and keeping things fresh and trying to stay competitive. I like it.
Yeah, man. Shouts out to Brent Selleck. I'm sorry, 11 years with us, man. We had to release him. Appreciate everything you did for us, man. Way to go out, Super Bowl champ, though.
Agreed. All right, well then let's move on. We are going to move on to the Washington Redskins. Now,
oh my God,
the
quality of the show just goes down.
The Redskins have had a probably less than desirable offseason. As we already know, they pulled the trigger early. They thought that the top two quarterbacks in free agency were Kirk Cousins and Alex Smith. They knew they couldn't get Kirk Cousins done, so they traded for Alex Smith. They bring him in. They save a lot of money on that by letting Kirk Cousins walk compared to what they'd probably have to end up paying him, as we saw what he's being paid now by the Vikings. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that. They also lost a couple other players. Niles Paul is the only fantasy relevant one. They brought in some players. Paul Richardson, who I think they honestly kind of drastically overpaid here. Paul Richardson, a 5-year, $40 million contract. And I've talked to a number of other analysts around the industry, and everyone pretty much agrees they don't really like this fit. It's an interesting signing. Obviously, he'll be on the outside with probably Doxson. I don't know. This team, I think, still needs a lot of pieces. And they, of course, re-signed Dustin Hopkins, their kicker, and Sam Irwin-Hill, their punter. So they signed him. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Redskins thus far this offseason? Not all at once.
This team seems like, I don't know. This team seems like a team that's a little bit in denial. It seems like a team that thinks, we got a good foundation. We got a lot of good stuff going on. We're going to add some nice drapes, and it's like, you know what? The foundation's got holes in it. It's got a lot of holes in it. And I think that they're going to realize that getting rid of Kirk Cousins, who I think covered up a lot of those holes with his play, and now they're bringing in Alex Smith, who needs a good supporting cast. He's a good game manager. I'll never disrespect Alex Smith, but he can't do it alone. No. He can't cover up those holes. He's not that kind of quarterback. So I have, and then bring Paul Richardson in. I think that's their drapes. They're like, oh, this will look nice. And it's not going to look nice because the ball's not going to get to him. So I really have a bad feeling about them this year. I think they're going to have a really rough time.
Yep.
I think they got a lot of holes on defense too that they need to cover up. They're hoping that their guys, as far as who they drafted for the defensive line, they can stay healthy and be able to contribute there. And as far as secondary goes, outside of Josh Norman, you just let go of Rashad Breeland. He went to the Carolina Panthers and signed that deal with them. He was a good young corner with them until they brought in Josh Norman for some reason. His role got decreased and he got moved, and I think that kind of took a shot at the psyche. But outside of what's going on there, man, I think there's a lot of holes still there, and they're really old in when it comes to that linebacker group too. They need to get better. I know they just re-signed. I'm trying to forget his name. I think it was Perry. Yeah, Zach Brown. Sorry, Zach Brown. They just re-signed him. Yep. So I mean, he was good for them too. But this defense can be taken advantage of just because of age, and that's unfortunate. I mean, they got wisdom. They got some dogs on there, but you spread them out. Like a lot of teams did this past season, you start to see a lot of weaknesses. And so hopefully they get younger in this draft, because just like Jason was saying, on the offense, man, Alex cannot do it all by himself, and they're making it seem like that's what they're expecting him to do, is just to do it all by himself.
I agree. So again, Paul Richardson, Jamison Crowder, Josh Doxson, those are your outside receivers. Terrell Pryor off the door. Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis. I expect to be heavily involved with Alex Smith and everything else that we said on the defense. It's a team that is still in need of a lot of pieces if they're going to take a big step, we think. So, all right, with that, let's move on. Now we're moving on to the AFC North, and we will start with my Baltimore Ravens. And for starters, I wish that I had like a hallelujah sound drop right now because I could not be happier. Basically, the talk of the fantasy world has been, what in the holy hell are the Ravens doing? They signed Ryan Grant, formerly of the Washington Redskins, like their sixth wide receiver on the depth chart, to a, 4-year, $29 million contract, something insane. And I say they tried to because he failed a physical, and therefore the contract was voided. So the Ravens saved money there, a move that analysts didn't like. I don't know a single fan that liked. I know he is well liked by coaches in Washington, but hated by the fans. I don't know. I think that if he was as good as some people think he was, he might have earned himself some more playing time. This is a guy who had a little over 80 receptions in a 4-year career, so it's not good. Only about 6 touchdowns. Not very good. We did, however, sign John Brown from the Arizona Cardinals. He's signed to a 1-year, $5 million deal, a good speedy guys we always talk about. Injury concerns are always the thing with him, but it's what you got to do. We've re-signed offensive lineman James Hurst. Not too much else to this point. Been very, very quiet, and many Ravens fans, like myself, are scratching our heads. I mean, we're not big on, as I always say, if you guys have been with us for any period of time, I know the truth. I know my Ravens aren't big on jumping in on free agency. They don't like to spend a lot of money. They believe in value shopping. But there's been some serious need on this team for a long time. There were players out there that could fill these holes. We did not go out and pick up the players that were out there for it. Jordy Nelson, who of course got cut, which we'll talk about. We all thought, okay, well that guy fits our mold, an aging receiver who you can probably get on the cheap. Signed with the Raiders, which we'll talk about again, spoiler alert, but now Michael Crabtree's out there. Again, spoiler alert, a guy that Baltimore has expressed interest in now. So I think we've got a lot of work to do because on the defensive side, we're solid. We're a top defense. I'm confident in saying that. But on the offensive side, we need a lot of love. We need to rebuild our entire pass-catching corps, and it's bad. We barely even started. You guys have anything you want to add about the Baltimore Ravens? It's really hard to say much more because they haven't really made any other moves.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, you did a pretty good job of covering it, and we were talking off the show before, off the air before the show started, about how a lot of GMs have blind spots when it comes to certain things, and definitely you guys' blind spot is at the receiver position. So yeah, you definitely need some love there.
Ozzie Newsome cannot, for the life of him, draft a wide receiver. He's good at bringing in veterans most of the time. Jeremy Maclin, clearly that's a whole other thing, which we have cut. He's gone. But Steve Smith before him, Anquan Bolden, Derek Mason before him, all guys who've had good careers with the Ravens. So we'll see how it all shakes out. We still have a lot of work to do. We need to work on getting our tight ends more involved. Max Williams needs to step up now. But right now, our starting wide receivers are John Brown and Chris Moore. Brashad Perryman's not even in the starting lineup, a former first-round pick. So, yeah, a lot of work needs to be done here. But let's move on. A team that we have a lot to talk about, but we've covered quite a bit of it to this point. So I guess we don't have to dwell for too long. The Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this team, they have re-signed Tyler Eifert to a 1-year deal. I don't remember how much the contract was for, but it's definitely a prove-it deal. They have signed Chris Baker, a defensive tackle. Other than that, they've only had a quarterback and a defensive end walk, and then a number of other players who are currently in limbo. So, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on the Bengals at this point? They haven't really done much.
Well, I mean, they made some trades as far as, they got some offensive linemen in there. We talked about that a couple shows ago, so that's I do like that signing. It helps out that. As far as, they brought in Tyler Eifert back. That was very surprising to me. I didn't expect that was going to happen, but, they made it happen, and he's there. And then, a lot of things that Jason was talking about a couple shows ago, you're getting guys back off of that second year. So you're going to get another year of experience with my man Joe Mixon. You got John Ross coming back. That stuff is going to help for the wide receivers. hopefully a healthy year out of AJ Green. So you already got pieces there that you should be excited about with this team. And then of course, whatever they're going to add in the draft, I think that's just basically going to be gravy for them. I like basically with the talent they have there now, and then just securing a couple spots that they know they need to address. And one of them is definitely the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, they brought in Cordy Glenn was the offensive lineman we're talking about, traded with the Bills for him, which is a huge move. I mean, we talk about that extensively. They really need offensive line help, and this is an option. Jason, you have anything you want to add before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, the main thing is offensive line, and I think if they spent almost all the draft picks on offensive linemen and maybe a couple defensive players, I think that'd be the smartest move for them because they've got a lot of great weapons. I mean, AJ Green, John Ross, Joe Mixon, you mentioned all of them. These are some great ones. Tyler Eifert, they got great weapons. They just need a line to guard for them.
I agree. All right, so with that, let's move on. And we are going to talk about the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, they've been busy. They have been very busy. And yet, when the dust has settled, they were so far under the cap that they're still the team with the second most cap space. They made a lot of trades. They brought a lot of players in. They have acquired a number of players in free agency. They brought in, some key names. Carlos Hyde, of course. They brought Carlos Hyde in for what was a pretty decent contract, 3 years, $15 million.
It's confusing contract.
Yeah, it's not the most lucrative one, but I mean it's 3 years, and this is really making everyone scratch their heads because everyone thought they were going to go for Sam Darnold and Saquon Barkley as with one of their top 4 picks. Now that's in question. I still think they should do it. I know plenty of people are saying, they've got other needs they need to address, but I mean, I don't think that Carlos Hyde is nearly on the same caliber. They've got a lot of moves to still make as well. I mean, we talk about all the players they brought in. Obviously trading for Jarvis Landry. They brought in Tyrod Taylor. I don't know what. They've been busy, but I'm not sure how well it's all going to gel together. What do you guys think?
Man, it's a lot. It's a lot going on with Cleveland, man. I like the initial pieces that they did. I mean, bringing in Tyrod, of course, bringing in Jarvis. I like the wide receivers they got going on there. Another year of Josh Gordon. Hopefully get a whole year of him. Staying clean, everything like that. The one thing that really throws me off about it is that thing with Carlos Hyde. That right there, just because you have a sure, no doubt start and phenomenal talent out of Barkley gonna come in. You can insert him in. You take him number 1, you come back at number 4, and take a tackle. I think you're good. But now with the moves that they made, all of that right now is a question. And you're kind of shaking your head. You're like, Cleveland, come on, you've been making some good trades and good moves right now. Don't Cleveland this thing. Like, what I'm saying? Come on, let's stay right, make the best decision, make a good decision, the smart decision, and do that. But right now, I kind of feel like they're about to Cleveland this thing and take a quarterback, which is probably not bad, but you have such a bad track record on picking quarterbacks now, and you brought Tyrod in right now, where you're not forced to do that so early, so soon. You can do something else. You can go a different direction, and address the other needs in the team. That's just me. That's what I'm thinking.
Jason,
with this Carlos Hyde thing, I think they may be thinking backup, which is weird to me because they've got Duke Johnson there, and he's good. I cannot see them choosing anyone besides Saquon Barkley at number 1. I just don't see it. Unless they're absolutely in love with somebody that they think is their quarterback of the future. I think Saquon Barkley is the answer there, because I mean they need that running back who can change the world for them. And Carlos Hyde is not that guy. I think Saquon Barkley is that guy. So I think that move, as far as bringing in Carlos Hyde, I think that was more of a backup type of a thing, because he's the same kind of back that Saquon Barkley is. He can do a little bit of everything. He's a 3-down back. He can catch the ball to the backfield. So they're going to have 3 guys that can do all those things, which is nice. And then you look at Tyrod Taylor. I tweeted out as soon as I heard about this, I actually really like this fit. I like Tyrod Taylor going to Cleveland because I feel like, and I think I mentioned this last show, I feel like they're kind of kindred spirits. You've got the Browns, who have had 2 losing seasons, 2 16 lost seasons in a row, just awful. And then you've got this Tyrod Taylor, who has been great. He's been very good when he's played, and yet his team has not believed in him. And they've treated him like, you got to get rid of him, move on to the next thing. So I think this is a really nice marriage between these two, and he could really bring some toughness to that locker room, and some obviously some veteran savvy to that locker room. And then of course we know they've got just $1 bajillion to play with and $1 bajillion draft picks to play with. So overall, I'm pretty excited about this. I like these pickups that they made.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they've traded away a number of picks, but they still have a ton. Jarvis Landry, Corey Coleman, Josh Gordon, starting receivers. Obviously, Darren Fells, David Njoku, Randall Telfer, I believe is how you say his name. I mean, he's obviously in the backup, but they've got a plethora of starting tight ends. Carlos Hyde is, again, the one that scratches our head because he's a 3-down back. They like Duke Johnson. They were talking about signing him, but they've got a lot of moves they need to make. But unfortunately, we're out of time. And we are moving on to the next team, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers haven't really done much of anything. They re-signed Fitzgerald Toufant, a backup running back for them, and they've had basically all their other free agents just remain sitting out there. So I guess there's not too much to talk about with Pittsburgh right now. Do you guys have any thoughts with the Steelers? They seem to be lying in wait, but they're very limited on what they can do because they have less than $8 million that they can spend at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they're a pretty loaded team already. I mean, not much they have to do, really.
It seems rude. You make them sound so good in my division. I see how it is.
Well, I'm just saying they really just know for what you. Well, I mean, they can go with quarterback, I guess. I mean, unless they don't believe in Josh Dawson, not Josh Dawson. I'm sorry.
Ben Roethlisberger.
No, not the backup. Not Roethlisberger.
Backup.
You mean Landry Jones?
No, not Landry Jones. They drafted a kid. They drafted a kid last year. Yeah, Joshua Dobbs. Yeah. So if they don't believe in him, I guess you can go get you another rookie. You already got the backup running back you believe in. So I mean, there's areas that they already been addressing. I mean, they can probably get better and younger defensively. Probably get some more corners and reliable targets there. Probably D-line. So there's areas they can address, but it's not anything screaming at me right now saying, okay, like if they don't do this, they're definitely not making the playoffs. So none of that.
They'll probably need inside linebacker support. Obviously, Ryan Shazier not going to play this year. He keeps saying he wants to come back, but I mean, at the very least, he's on reserve. They've already said they're not going to bring him back this year. Sean Spence, he's a free agent. But other than that, the rest of the defense is all under contract. Le'Veon Bell, franchise tag. James Conner, who there have been reports saying they might target another running back, but they just re-signed Fitzgerald Toussaint. James Conner, they liked. He got a little banged up at the end of the year, though. So, I mean, I don't see any glaring needs either. They're just really tight against the cap, so I think they're going to bide their time, wait and see what kind of falls to them, and they're going to be aggressive. They've got one of the top offenses in the league already. So, yeah, I agree. Yep. I don't think that there's too much to talk about there. So, I guess we're moving on. We're going to go to the NFC North, and we will start with a team that has been very busy, and that is the Chicago Bears. The Bears, they make me angry because they signed Allen Robinson. They signed Allen Robinson to a 3-year, $42 million contract. I gotta say, not my favorite landing spot for Allen Robinson. It's a team that had a lot of money to spend. They had a need at wide receiver. You knew they were going to do it, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't feel like I've seen it in Mitchell Trubisky to feel like he can actually utilize Allen Robinson, but I don't like the landing spot for fantasy. I'm not excited about it. And, I mean, they've made other moves, too. They brought in Trey Burton, who's going to be good there. They brought in Taylor Gabriel, who's going to be, again, stretch the field. They've been adding weapons, and I don't know if this offense is going to have enough volume to make any of them particularly relevant week to week. So I don't know. What do you guys think? They re-signed some defensive players, some offensive linemen, but as a whole, they brought in pass catchers. So what do you guys think?
I mean, I like the moves that they made. I think what what they're doing right now is, they want to build weapons around Trubisky, and we might see a good year like Carson Wentz, this second season. They brought talent around him, and he progressed as a quarterback and he got better. And right now, that's basically what everything is shaping up. You said about Trey Burton, he was a great tight end for us, and I'm going to be really sad to see him go. But I love the opportunity he has to be that guy in this system. I'm really looking forward to see that. Allen Robinson, I agree with you. I'm not too happy about him landing there, but hey, listen, once again, he's getting matched up with a young quarterback and great offensive system with the coach coming from Kansas City. So once again, there's potential there. So there's things you could get you to get on board with that. And of course, you already got Cameron Meredith there, so they got a nice little receiving core going there low key. And of course, you already know what's up with the running game. So you got that going on defensively. They put the franchise tag on Kyle Fuller, so that's good. You don't want to let him go. He's a good corner, and then they can always get better, and they can use these picks to get better when it comes to that side of the ball as well. So there's things to like there. I mean, you just gotta look deep, and really don't go like the Bears. Like come on, like listen, look at it like a fresh date. It's a new date. You know what I'm saying? You guys got chemistry. This is you can look at.
They still got a lot of money to play with, too. They still have the seventh most cap space, $59.3 million. So they're far from done.
Good.
The advantage, of course, being a lot of their players are young. They're one of the younger teams, and I expect them to make more splashes. But, I mean, pulling the trigger left and right on all these young prospects. I really like Trey Burton, like you're saying. I think he's going to be awesome. As we all know, I love Allen Robinson. I've been an Allen Robinson truther since his rookie year in Jacksonville. But it's just one of those things where I have to see it, and I don't know that I really am a fan of Mark Helfrich's offense enough. Matt Nagy, I don't know. I need to see it before I can really jump on board. So, I mean, as of right now, they got Allen Robinson, Kevin White, Taylor Gabriel as our starting wide receivers, Cameron Meredith in the wings as well. I don't know. We'll see.
I have to say, one of the things I like about this is sort of like what I was saying earlier about another team. It actually escapes me who I was talking about, but they're addressing their holes. They're addressing the issues. And we talked about this extensively last year, that they had the bargain bin wide receiver core, that they just reached into the bottom of the bargain bin and said, oh, here's one for $1, and that's kind of what they had going on. Now they've gone out, and no one can say that anymore because they went out and they paid Allen Robinson and brought him on board. They got Taylor Gabriel. They brought him on board. And they got a really nice young tight end in Trey Burton there who's a do-everything tight end. I love that pick for them. Part of me was kind of hoping he'd make his way out to the desert, but I didn't think.
I mean, a lot of teams are hoping that he'd fall to them.
Of course.
And so, it sucks. I would love to have seen him in Baltimore. It is what it is.
Right.
This was a common landing spot. They had a lot of money. We knew they were going to throw a lot of money at him, and that's what ended up happening. He took a big boy contract. So, it's rough.
I wrote an article, and I don't know if it's up on the website just yet.
20 seconds.
This well, if you shut up and let me talk, Mr. Griffin.
10 seconds.
But
12 seconds.
This kind of shows that the tight end position might be something to start looking at as making a resurgence this coming year. There's a lot of really good talent coming out. A lot of young quarterbacks who are going to be looking for their tight end. So I like it.
Indeed. And perfectly timed. We ran out of time. We are moving on to the Detroit Lions. The Lions have made a number of moves, mostly shoring up their own holes right now, re-signing some of their own guys. Certain players have walked. Haloti Ngata, one we've already mentioned. But, I mean, as a whole, the team's been kind of passive, if I'm honest. They brought in some defensive help from outside. They've re-signed almost entirely defensive players. Not too much to talk about here on the fantasy side. They did release Eric Ebron, which is sad news for me. I should play the sad drop for that. But I think he's going to land in a better spot. I still think Eric Ebron's a good tight end. I think in a system that features the tight end more, we might still see that. So we'll see. Do you guys have any thoughts on the Detroit Lions right now, based on what they've done so far this new year?
Not right now. I don't think they're done. I think with the new regime now, they're looking over the tape and seeing people that they like, and then everybody they don't like they're releasing, and then I think they're really going to go hard on the draft and pick their guys.
Yeah, we heard reports that Matt Patricia really was going to try and get Trey Burton, but missed out to crosstown rival, the Chicago Bears. So, they ended up releasing Eric Ebron anyway. So as of right now, Michael Roberts is their starting tight end. So, fourth-round pick from last year, so, in case anyone's wondering who the heck that is. Jason, any thoughts?
I think you're going to see them go out and either sign a stud tight end or trade for one, because I think Patricia definitely wants a good tight end.
Very good. All right, well, let's move on to yet another team, the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Packers have been not overly active, but they have made some impressive moves. For starters, they landed what I would still argue is the top tight end out there, even at his age, Jimmy Graham. They signed Jimmy Graham to a 3-year, $30 million contract. Consequently, the team decided to move on from longtime wide receiver Jordy Nelson, who, I mean, hey, he was very good for the first 4 games last year until Aaron Rodgers went down and then never really got going. Wasn't doing well in contested catches. And a lot of that I also blame on the quarterback, Brett Hundley. But, I mean, hey, they needed to save contract space. Randall Cobb was due about the same, but much younger player. They could use him more in the slot. They were going to try and restructure Jordy. Jimmy Graham came in. They needed the money. They cut Jordy Nelson. Nelson out the door, and by all reports, landing in a location that we'll talk about soon. They also brought in Muhammad Wilkerson, big defensive end from the Jets, who signed a massive contract back 2 years ago and hasn't really played up to it, and they re-signed one of their corners. But other than that, a team that hasn't been overly active thus far this offseason as far as free agency goes. They obviously traded with the Browns to bring in DeShone Kizer. So what do you guys think about the Packers at this point?
I mean, I like the move with bringing bringing Jimmy Graham there. Like, come on, let Aaron Rodgers get a tight end that can actually move, and he can be able to work with, and you still got some good talent around him. Let's do that. I mean, you make the move to get rid of Jordy. Okay, I can understand that. I mean, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is pleased with that, but hey, you did that move. It's done. It's done. You're basically raising the value back up for Devontae Adams. That basically he is the guy in that offense. You got some people that like that because they think he got potential. You got other people that kind of like Griffin. He just continues to break their heart each and every year. And now
shattered it.
He's got a solid argument now. You have a solid argument now for him to be the guy. So there you go. So that's that. Yep. But so that's what I'm looking at when it comes to this team. I really like the Jimmy Graham move, and I'm looking forward to seeing that because I think there's a lot of potential there between those two.
And we'll get to see more out of Geronimo Allison and Jeff Janis as well, wide receivers that they drafted in the last couple of years that I haven't gotten to see too much of. So, I mean, there's some upside there. Aaron Rodgers, we all know he could have come back last year, but what's the point? The season was away from them. And they add more quality depth. We all saw Brett Hundley wasn't really the answer. DeShone Kizer in town. It works out. And we've had this argument the last couple signings, but I would argue the best tight end that Aaron Rodgers has ever had, even at this point in his career. Jason, any thoughts? We got about a minute left.
Oh, yeah. Hands down the best tight end that he's ever played with. And really, we're talking about the quarterback that throws in the red zone more than any other quarterback in the league by far.
Yeah.
So adding this big, scary red zone threat is a wonderful move for Green Bay. I think that they made the right choice. And DeShone Kizer, I think DeShone Kizer is better than a lot of people give him credit for. I mean, the man was in Cleveland. Cut him a break, give him some weapons to throw to. I think this is going to work out pretty well for them.
All right, well, let's move on. Last team in the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings, who landed a whale this offseason. It's amazing. If you go back to January, we're talking about, man, who are they going to keep? Is it going to be Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Bradford, Case Keenum? What are they going to do? They let them all go, and they sign Kirk Cousins to a landslide record-breaking, never-before-seen contract in the NFL, a 3-year, $84 million fully guaranteed contract. And I still stand by, I don't like the 3-year contract because, that's a year to learn the system, get situated, build a rapport. Then you get one good year, and then you're already negotiating after that. So I hate the concept of a 3-year contract, but that's what Kirk Cousins wanted. That's what Kirk Cousins got. So he is in. They've made some moves to bring in backups behind him. But the biggest notes, of course, is that they they landed themselves arguably the piece that they need to push past the NFC Championship and maybe into the Super Bowl this year. What do you guys think of this move?
I like it.
Thank you for that in-depth analysis there. Jason?
No, I mean, you got to like it. I mean, Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. He's proven himself on a team that was, I'm sorry, just not very good. He's going to a team that is very, very good. They've got a fantastic defense, a lot of good young weapons there. There's a lot to like about this move. I tell you one thing, the Vikings fans are absolutely spoiled right now because of the amount of good quarterback talent that they've had over the past several years. It's amazing. I mean, it's so hard to find a good quarterback that can be solid and that can win games for you. And these guys have had 4. It's awesome, you know. So yeah, I like the move. Congrats to them, and congrats to those other quarterbacks because they're going to get opportunities other places.
Absolutely. All right.
I like that sneaky. I'm sorry. I like that sneaky Trevor Siemian coming there too to be the backup. I like that sneaky one there too.
Yeah, I did like that move. That was pretty interesting to me. We'll see how this all plays out. I think that this is definitely going to help them. They've realized, and I talked about this a lot during the playoffs, that they have a very kind of limited window. A lot of players are coming up on contract years, and so they spent money now when they needed to. They got themselves a quarterback that can hopefully get them over the hump. Most of the team from last year is still under contract this year, at least out of the starters, and they're going to make one heck of a push for it. So, yeah, the Minnesota Vikings, that wraps us up for them, and we are now halfway done. Guys, how you feeling?
I hate everything.
You hate everything. That's just not even nice. I'm actually going to pick up the pace now. I'm going to make it so that we have, because a lot of the moves that we needed to talk about, we've already kind of mentioned. A lot of these remaining teams haven't done a ton. Some have, some haven't. So I'm going to make it now 3-minute. This is lightning round for the second half. So we're going to start with the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, they've had an offseason. They've signed a number of offensive linemen, some defensive players. They re-signed Bruce Ellington. The only notable thing, Tom Savage is now a New Orleans Saint, and they've got a number of other players who are still out there in limbo, but they are not expected to re-sign. So they haven't done too much. What are your thoughts on the Texans right now?
Not much to think yet. I mean, like you said, they haven't really done a whole heck of a lot just yet, so I'm biding my time, waiting to see what happens.
Yep, CJ,
yeah,
what are your
same
thoughts?
here. I mean, I like the talent that's there now. I know they're gonna make some improvements on the offensive line. All the status quo coach peak type stuff. But right now, as it stands, they haven't really done anything to make it newsworthy.
Yeah. Obviously, big thing everyone's waiting on is seeing Deshaun Watson back at the beginning of the year. They have 2 other quarterbacks out the door right now, but it is what it is. DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, they're still going to be there. As I said, they re-signed Bruce Ellington. CJ Fedorowicz, Ryan Griffin as their tight ends. They have Lamar Miller still currently under contract, but Deonta Foreman they really like there as well. Lamar Miller expected to be possibly a cap casualty. I haven't really been hearing much news lately linking them to still being, about to do that. I mean, they've got a lot of cap space. They've got $61 million of cap space. They have the 5th most cap in the league right now. So I don't see a need to cut him because right now it's a great piece of insurance and they have a good 1-2 punch. Deontay Foreman coming back from an Achilles injury, I believe it was. So I don't expect them to part ways with Lamar Miller this year. I think it might happen after this year because they can get away from him with less of a cap hit. So yeah, as of right now, more or less looking pretty much the same, the Houston Texans, just waiting for their sophomore quarterback to be back and be healthy. So let's move on. We are now going to the Indianapolis Colts, who have also not really done much of anything. They re-signed a defensive end. Dante Moncrief is gone. He signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, man, again, a guy who was linked to my Ravens, and they were going to give him stupid money, apparently. But the Jacksonville Jaguars outbid us, and I know I gave Dante Moncrief a lot of crap. I think for the right price, he's an option as a rotational piece, but if you're going to build your offense around him, you're going to be probably pretty sad. So, yeah, he's gone. He's in Jacksonville. Other than that, the vast majority of their players are all still kind of in limbo. Frank Gore, they've already said they're not bringing back. Kamar Aiken, not expected to return to the team. The rest of the players, for the most part, are either ones that you wouldn't know or they're defensive players, so we talk about those more on Patreon. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Colts right now? A team that hasn't really done too much. They haven't been too active.
Not that much to think. gotta wait for some moves. We know they're gonna make improvements on the offensive line. I like the coach, Frank Wright, as Eagle, but right now, as it stands, everything is just gonna be coach speak until they start actually doing something.
Yep, Jason, what are your thoughts?
I'm interested to see what they do at the running back position, and I'm interested to see what they do going forward as far as hedging their bets with Andrew Luck. I'm hoping that he's healthy this year. Obviously, we've heard reports both ways. So waiting to see what actually happens when he first steps out for that first day of practice. And then, of course, like I said, the running back position is one that I'm intrigued. They're picking very high in the draft. So I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see what they do.
Yep. So Colts, we'll see. Dante Moncrief got away on a 1-year, $7 million deal to Jacksonville, by the way. Just putting that out there. All right, so with that, I guess we'll move on. And we're moving to the next team in the AFC South, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Jacksonville, they've been decently busy to this point. They've made a number of signings. As we mentioned, they brought in Dante Moncrief. They have re-signed, I should say, Marquise Lee. So they combined signed both of these wide receivers for around the price that Allen Robinson went for, which I would take Allen Robinson over both of these guys. So interesting move. I'm thinking there's got to be more behind the scenes. From the outside looking in, it just doesn't make sense. They brought in a number of tight ends to replace Julius Thomas. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, a favorite of yours truly, the host of the show. They brought in Niles Paul as a depth move at tight end as well. They brought in Andrew Norwell, who was rated by a couple of sources that I saw as being just an awesome offensive lineman. Should be a very great addition for both pass blocking and run protection. They've been aggressive, and I believe they still have a decent amount of cap space. Let me look that up. What do you guys think?
I think that they're up for the Bonehead of the Year award. You let a number one wide receiver walk away.
A true number one at that.
Why in the world would you do that? It makes no sense to me. All they had to do was franchise tag the guy, and he's theirs, and they didn't do it, and they decided to let him go. I think that this guy is going to flourish, and I think that they're going to look really stupid.
CJ?
Yeah, I totally agree with Jason, and they got to get better. I need them to get better on offense a little bit. I mean, I'm expecting a little more from there, and yeah, that's all I got. I need some more offense to get some juice to this team.
Marquise Lee, by the way, 4-year, $34 million contract. They opted to pay him comparable money to Allen Robinson, plus bringing in Dante Moncrief instead of just paying Allen Robinson. Again, I have to assume, that there's something behind the scenes here. The team saw something, or there was a conflict of personalities. I don't know, but it's just to me this crazy concept because, as we said, a true number one receiver. Yes, he's still young. He still needs to develop some things. Yes, coming off injury, but we've seen it. 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns when you have Blake Bortles as your quarterback doesn't just happen. Just putting that out there. So now in Chicago, as we know and we have mentioned. So, yeah, I guess with that, the Jags, by the way, as I mentioned, still doing pretty decent. They have the 18th most cap space. They still have about $27 million to play with. So they still have some serious room. Quarterbacks under contract. I'm gonna be intrigued. They still have options. So I guess let's move on to the last team in the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans, which have been busy breaking fantasy fans' hearts around the globe. For starters, they signed Dion Lewis, and they signed him to a pretty substantial contract, 4-year, $19.8 million. Not the most game-breaking contract you've ever heard of, but that's definite money. They are planning to use this guy. Now, I was a firm believer, and I made this statement many, many times. As soon as the Marco Murray rumors were happening, they were going to let him go, and then even after they did, they were probably going to bring in someone else. Derrick Henry, who everyone is ecstatic about, and fantasy Twitter's losing their mind, and they've been waiting. CJ is a prime example of this. He's not a great pass catcher. We've seen limited opportunity, and he doesn't look great. So they brought in a guy who is able to do that. Now, I still think that Derrick Henry is going to be a first, second down back. I think he's going to be the workhorse back. I think Dion Lewis is going to work in, but Dion Lewis is definitely going to be that pass-catching option. He's going to eat into the production. He's going to take away snaps. And they kind of cannibalize each other, if I'm honest. It's tough because with how much they are paying him, they're paying him right around starter money. He's going to see some playing time. They also brought in Malcolm Butler, who they, top corner from the Patriots, who they paid quite a pretty penny for. So they're making some moves. They re-signed a couple linemen as well on the offensive and the defensive side. So what are your guys' thoughts about the Titans thus far this offseason?
You know what? I like the Titans, man. I gotta be honest. They're starting to fix the holes in their defense. Bringing in my man from the Patriots, Butler. Bringing Butler in there. You start to move Ryan back in the inside, be the slot guy where he should be. You got the other kid, Dora Jackson, that they drafted last year. They got the speed. He's a little raw, but I think that's another year in the system, and especially with the new coach regime, I think that's going to work out. So I like what they're doing right there. Offensively, of course, I wanted my man Derrick Henry to take the reins, and I mean, I still see him doing that. Still see them being that that first and second down back, just like you were talking about. And then their option back in this offense, I think that's a perfect fit with Dion Lewis being there, right? Kind of a contrary styles right there, throwing off defenses, man. I think that's going to be really good. And right now it's just going to be all on can Mariota take that next step, man. He's got to take that next step with the people, in the system, man. That's going to be the main thing. I mean, you have all that talent right there, and they beef up the defense. It's all going to be on him. So I'm hoping that he can do it.
Malcolm Butler, 5-year, $61.25 million contract. Yet the Titans still have the 8th most cap space, sitting at about exactly $59 million. Jason, any thoughts? We got about 30 seconds left.
I like the moves. I think Deion Lewis and Derrick Henry make a much better duo than DeMarco Murray and Henry did. So pretty good pickup, and I can't wait to see what Corey Davis does this year to take that next step.
I agree. All right, let's move on. We are moving on to the NFC South, and we have to start with the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons, they've had some players leave. We already talked about Taylor Gabriel departing, going to Chicago. They re-signed some linemen. That's been about the extent of it. They brought in Dontre Poe, defensive tackle from the Panthers. Sorry, he left and went to the Panthers. I'm sorry, they didn't bring him in.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. I don't know. It's interesting. They've got a number of players still out there, some of which definitely have upside, but the team seemingly waiting, maybe not even looking to bring most of them back. I don't know. This team is definitely kind of playing a waiting game right now, and I don't really know what their plans are, what they're really thinking. They don't have a lot of cap space to play with. They only have about $13 million. They have the 5th least cap space. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about the Atlanta Falcons right now?
I think that they are definitely, as you said, playing that waiting game. They're kind of waiting to see what develops, what falls to them, what's going to be available, and then banking a little bit more on the draft moving forward. This team, I think, is intelligent enough to understand that they need another offseason with Sarkisian at the helm of that offense, give them an opportunity to adapt a bit more. And I think they'll get back to not as good as they were 2 years ago, but get better than they were this last year.
Yeah.
I think I second Jason. That's going to be the big headline, and hopefully update for this team this offseason.
Yep. So we're kind of playing a waiting game here. So, of course, they still have Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu as their starting wide receivers. They've got plenty of guys that they like behind him, Justin Hardy as a prime example. They still have Austin Hooper there. There was talks about them bringing in another tight end. They haven't done it as of yet. Obviously, Matt Ryan has to play better. This whole offense needs to play better. So we'll see how this team shakes out. The offseason is very, very young. They're just one of many teams who are kind of biding their time. So let's move on. Next team to talk about, we have the Carolina Panthers, who have had a lot of departures. They haven't really brought anyone in. They re-signed Julius Peppers. They cut Jonathan Stewart, like we said. They traded away a couple players. They brought in some defensive help, linemen and secondary. But as far as for fantasy purposes, offensive side, haven't really made any moves to this point. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Panthers right now?
Not a lot is going on. Nothing a lot to be excited about as it stands right now. Everything else is going to be draft related to get you happy about this team.
Yeah.
But
you pencil Torrey Smith in as a starter, of course. I mean, that's interesting at least.
Of course.
But yeah, not too much else going on.
Yeah.
Jason?
No, like you said, not really much to say at this point. Just, again, another one of those teams just kind of playing the waiting game.
Yep. And we've been hearing, of course, they might bring in another running back. Haven't done it as of yet. Christian McCaffrey still is the starter there, and seemingly uncontestedly so. So we'll definitely see. Let's move on. The New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints, they got done what they needed to. The most important thing, of course, they re-signed Drew Brees, 2-year, $50 million contract, took a pretty cap-friendly deal, which is kind of crazy that you can say $50 million over the course of 2 years is cap-friendly, but that's the NFL world we live in. They brought in some offensive line help, some defensive players. They brought in Tom Savage as a backup, but beyond that, haven't been super busy. So the Saints... We've been hearing and we've seen that they were interested in a number of pass-catching options. Some of the top wide receivers, obviously we talked about them being linked to reacquiring the ex-Saint tight end, Jimmy Graham. That didn't end up happening. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Saints at this point this offseason?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
No, I was probably going to say the same thing you were going to say. Basically, yeah, they brought back their quarterback. That's something that they needed to do. One of the best ever. Other than that, not really much to say yet.
I think the things that they needed to address, they did. I mean, it's been kind of low key, but most of the moves that they made was defensively. They brought back Patrick Robinson, like I said earlier. One of the famous plays that ended their playoff run was that bad cornerback play at the end. Kid was doing that, so you needed to do that. So I like them doing that. He played for them. Kind of played himself out because of injuries. Got bounced around, and then now hey, full circle, making his way back. So I like the story. I like the situation. Him probably most likely going to be their lead guy, so that's going to be good for him and good for the system. So I like what they're doing with the Saints wise as far as defensively. I know that's not a breaking news story and everybody wants to hear it, but defensively for the Saints, I think that's pretty good.
Hey, defense, you got to have defense. I mean, we say that as talking about the Saints, which when they made it to the Super Bowl, they had, the 31st ranked defense playing against a team with the 32nd ranked defense in that Super Bowl, Saints and Colts. So defense wins championships was not very true that year. But as a whole, it's important, I would say. I'll put this out to you guys before we move on. Willie Snead is a free agent. Do you guys think that they re-sign Willie Snead?
I think they're going to let him test the waters. And, if it's a deal they think is suitable that they can match, then absolutely. But I think they're probably going to let him walk for now. I
find it interesting. They say he's got 3 seasons of experience. On NFL.com's official site, they say he's a free agent, but on other sites, I see him penciled into their starting lineup. So that's kind of weird. I don't know. We'll move on.
Try to throw you off the mix.
Yeah, we'll just move on. And we will wrap up the NFC South talking about, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs have also done some moves that have broken some hearts and done some other things that were very much expected. Of course, they parted ways with Doug Martin, saving a lot of cap space there, who has since already signed with another team on a prove-it deal. Not too surprised there. Re-signed Ryan Fitzpatrick as their backup quarterback. They brought in some defensive help, some linemen, some defensive backs. But the big note that they re-signed tight end Cameron Brate, which, as we talked about on Tuesday's show, you got to assume that this is not what most fantasy fans want, because we want to see O.J. Howard get the full workload. But Cameron Brate returns. He's a favorite target and a big red zone threat. So, obviously, they re-signed Mike Evans as well. So they've been busy this offseason, but, I mean, there's still quite a bit, I think, to get done. What do you guys think about the Bucs thus far?
Well,
Wow.
I mean, they've kind of stood pat. I mean, honestly, they brought back Cameron Brate, but that's kind of where they were last year. I think that everybody held their breath and waited for last year to happen, and they wanted to see that young quarterback take that next step and become one of those elite quarterbacks in the league. And they held their breath and held their breath and held their breath, and it didn't happen. And I was one of those people, just waiting for him to go off, and it did not happen. So I think maybe they're banking on the fact that this will happen maybe this year, and they're going to keep his weapons with him. That Mike Evans is there, and they got a couple of other young weapons that they can bring on, and then Cameron Brate and that O.J. Howard. So he's got the weapons to make it happen. They need to shore up the running back position, but otherwise this team has no excuse not to have a good offense next year.
Yeah, absolutely. They got to go out there and address that running back position. I'm double down with Jason with that. Outside of that, defensively, defensive line, maybe they can address and help and give Gerald McCoy some help. And of course on secondary, bring Grimes. I think that's a good piece for doing that. He's a good agent cornerback. And that's basically it for me, man. This is just like Jason said. This is the prove it year. There's should be no excuses. No excuses this year.
Yeah, I agree. Running back is the biggest need by far right now because Jaquiz Rodgers is currently their starter. And then behind him is Peyton Barber. So these aren't exactly guys that you hope to build your team around. We like these guys. They're good fantasy fill-ins. They're good streaming options. I honestly think that they are holding out hope, and they might even move up to try and get Sony Michael. Michelle, whatever, how do you say his dang name? He's the second running back in the league, but if you look at all of the statistics, the breakdown, if Saquon Barkley wasn't in this draft, we would be talking about him extensively as being the top talent by a large margin in this whole upcoming NFL rookie draft. These two are so far ahead of the next couple guys. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So I think that they're holding out hope on getting another one of these young running backs to replace the lost isn't the right word, the discarded Doug Martin, and we'll see how it all plays out. So, yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're out of time. Oh, no! So with that, we move on, and we go to the AFC West, and we start with the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, they made moves. They did not land Kirk Cousins. They instead, even while they were waiting for the Kirk Cousins news to break and where he was going to land, they knew that they were not going to land him, so they went out and they signed Case Keenum. Guys, what are your thoughts on Case Keenum under helm in Denver?
Well, I mean, he's going to move the ball. I guess John Elway says in this offense, he just needs someone that doesn't be able to cause turnovers and, that can be able to just move the ball. Right now, they're rebuilding their defense. There's places that they let go as far as, a key to lead. Let him go. So they want to move up Riley Roby. So they're trying to stick to their same formula that got them to the dance, with Peyton Manning. So that's what I see them doing. And then as far as Case Keenum goes, as long as you have a decent line in front of him, he's going to make magic for you. He had a solid year with Minnesota, and, Denver's just looking to see if they can capitalize on that.
Yeah. 2-year, $36 million contract, pretty team-friendly deal, only $18 million a year. That's not bad at all. His cohorts, like Sam Bradford, for instance, got more than that on a per-year basis. So, I don't know. Interesting. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, decent signing. Talented young quarterback. He's tough, rugged. He should work out pretty well. And they've still got Paxton Lynch there as the backup, and I think they still kind of believe in him. So overall, I think it was a decent pickup for them. Obviously, it would have been better for them to grab Kirk Cousins, but I think they did a good job. I think this is going to be a good fit.
Yeah, they exercised the option, of course, on Demaryius Thomas's contract as well. This team is, obviously they've lost a couple pieces. Brock Osweiler is yet to be re-signed. They traded away Trevor Siemian. Jamal Charles is a free agent, but as a whole, this team looks pretty much the same. They did lose Virgil Green. He went to the Chargers, which we'll talk about in a minute. They haven't really done much else as far as bringing players in. I don't think, if I remember correctly, they're very close to the cap at all, though. Yeah, no, they've got about $29 million to play with right now. They have the 14th most cap space. So I guess they're just biding their time, and they're shoring up what they need to shore up in the process, and they go from there. I mean, a key note to talk about, of course, is that they also did release Aqib Talib, so that saved a lot of cap space. So you have to assume that the defense took a hit there. I don't know. Do you think that with the way that this whole division is shaking out, and I know we just kind of started on this division, but knowing what we know, do you think the Denver Broncos have what it takes to be competitive in the AFC West this year?
I
think they'll finish. I'm sorry. Go ahead, CJ.
I think they'll finish third.
Finish third, Jason.
I was going to say, when you've got two receivers the caliber that they've got in Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, and you've got a quarterback that can actually find them and get the ball to them, I think you got to always expect that they're and the defense as good as they've had. You got to always expect them to be competitive.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to see them go out and shore up the running back position. I don't know if Steve Anderson going out, but overall, I like it. I think Denver could be competitive.
Yeah, we went overtime on that one. But yeah, no, I agree. We'll see how it shakes out. Well, let's move on, and we're going to Kansas City, a team that we have highly debated this offseason. Obviously, they had a good year last year. They've made some very aggressive moves. They've let a lot of their talent go, and the debate this offseason has really been, are they retooling or are they rebuilding? And they're walking that line pretty well at this point. A key note, something that they did here, is they brought in Sammy Watkins. They brought him in. They paid him the most. They paid him a lot more than Allen Robinson. He got a 3-year, $48 million contract. He's coming in to join the rest of that offense and make it less of a, I think, obvious system. Obviously, as we talked about in the offseason this past year already, this was we're going to throw it to Tyreek Hill. We're going to dump it off to Kareem Hunt. We're going to throw it to Travis Kelce. If any one of these guys go down, the offense falls apart. Well, they bring in Sammy Watkins, and I think that is a valuable weapon for Patrick Mahomes. I like the offense, honestly, at this point. They've lost a number of pieces on the defensive side, but they're doing what I like to see with young quarterbacks. They're surrounding him with as much talent as possible and giving him every chance to succeed. Now, he needs to, of course, step up and play to that level, but they've given him some amazingly talented weapons. What do you guys think about the Chiefs right now?
I like them. I like them a lot. I think that Patrick Mahomes was someone that I had my eye on for a couple of years before he was drafted, and huge, massive arm, massive amounts of upside. He's a gunslinger. He's going to throw the ball down the field. And you also give him a really nice running back situation with Kareem Hunt, who proved himself last year. I mean, just sick amount of yards in the first half of the season. I think if they stay consistent with that, and now you've got Sammy Watkins to pair up with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, he's got talent all over the place. That defense is always dangerous. I like this team. I don't think they're rebuilding. I think they're just upgrading at the quarterback position and moving forward.
Not just retooling, but upgrading. Interesting. CJ, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they definitely needed to upgrade and rebuild this defense. They needed to get younger. They had a lot of old guys on there, so they let go of Daryl Johnson. They let go of Tamba Ali, and they brought in Anthony Hitchens. So they're bringing in some pieces that are good, and that's going to upgrade them as far as when it comes to that. But I'm really going to be interested to see what they're going to do in the draft, because I'm not really too concerned about the offense. We already know about Patrick Mahomes. He's probably going to go through his ups and downs just for being a rookie. But I think he's going to, it'll probably be a lot more ups than it's going to be downs in that offense. But the defense is going to be the one that's going to is going to be the Achilles heel of this team if they doesn't get it right.
Yeah. I mean, the defense definitely is going to be the weak part here, and it's kind of weird to say that because they were pretty good on defense almost all the time. Tamba Ali, free agent. Ron Parker, free agent. Derek Johnson, a free agent. All guys they had were cap casualties. They traded away Marcus Peters. So this team, they've made some moves. They've done what they had to do. They want to be an offensive team, but we're out of time, unfortunately. Let's move on. Next team in the division is the Chargers. Now, the Chargers, they have a lot of players that are still unsigned. I think a number of them, we expect them to probably re-sign. But as a whole, all they've really done is they brought in Virgil Green, tight end from the Broncos, as a backup move. I think this assures us that Antonio Gates is done. I don't think they're going to bring him back. And they brought in a defensive end. So, I mean, as a whole, they haven't done much. We all like this team, though, and this offense as being a very high-ceiling team. What do you guys think here? Didn't they tendered Tyrell Williams as well? He's being shown as unsigned, but they gave him a second-round tender. So, yeah, restricted free agent. So, yeah, this team has a lot of great pass-catching weapons. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, their moves, what they've done so far now, it's not going to excite anybody just because they really did anything. Virgil Green, he's a good blocking tight end, so I like that move for them. That's low key with that, but I really want to just see this team play. I think they're going to address a couple of needs that they have. Of course, offensive line, they're going to get better. The guys that they drafted last year, offensive line, they got hurt, and now they get to play. We're going to get to see that going on. So I'm just ready to see this team play, to be honest, just because all the talent on there, I'm really a big fan of Phillip Rivers, and I just want to see it all come together.
Jason?
Mike Williams being healthy is going to be huge. This team's got all the pieces on offense to be a very, very scary offense and kind of explode. Like I think I've said a couple of shows now, this is a team, I'm just waiting for an offensive explosion because they've got the talent, they've got the quarterback, they've got the opportunity. I think this year could be a possibility.
Yeah, let's see if Ken Wisenhunt and Anthony Lynn can pull it together. I mean, like I said, so many weapons. Keenan Allen, obviously. Tyrell Williams, they tendered. Mike Williams, Travis Benjamin. Tight end, they have Hunter Henry, who we love. They brought in Virgil Green, who's a good pass catcher as well. Obviously, Melvin Gordon as their running back, who is a dangerous weapon in both aspects. Not the best per touch guy, but he's efficient. Not efficient. He's effective. There's the word. They've got a great offense. They've got weapons on defense. This team just really needs to pull it all together, like we've been saying, but they've got the potential. They've got the framework to do it, so we'll see how it all plays out. So let's move on. And that brings us to the last team in the AFC West, and that is, of course, the Oakland Raiders, who have been they've been busy in a lot of ways that are kind of surprising, kind of frustrating, and they've made some moves. Of course, they brought in Doug Martin. We were talking about this pretty extensively. He signed a one-year deal. The details are not yet public. They brought in Jordy Nelson, who they signed for a 2-year, $15 million contract, $13 million of it, which was guaranteed. And so they're paying him essentially exactly what they were paying a younger Michael Crabtree, and then they cut Michael Crabtree. So that's what's peculiar to me. There's got to be something on the inside because they brought in an older receiver at the same price and then cut the other guy who knew the system. He had been there. Though, to be fair, new head coach, and maybe the system's getting a little bit of an overhaul. They brought in Griff Whalen, who was a Ravens receiver. Derek Carrier, tight end from the, I think he was the Chargers. It just says L.A. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Man, I don't know. This team's a head scratcher because you got John Gruden and he's squirrely. Bringing in Doug Martin kind of confuses me because you still got Marshawn Lynch there, and by all accounts, he likes Marshawn Lynch. But now you're bringing in Doug Martin, who's a 3-down back. So I don't like that. I don't like it. I think that's going to dilute both of them. I mean, we've seen what happens to Doug Martin. He disappears. He'll have 1 or 2 good games, and then he's gone. And it's like, bye, Doug.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know. There's a lot to scratch your head about with this team, and removing Michael Crabtree, who's been their best offensive weapon, is very, very odd to me. I'm just confused by it. I love Jordy Nelson and everything, but like you said, they already had Crabtree there. Why spend the money? Why cut him?
Right. When
that. You're not really upgrading, or you're not really doing anything. You're just getting older at the position.
Yep. Offensive coordinator Greg Olson's still there, just head coach changing. So we've heard them say they want to build this offense around Amari Cooper, so we'll see how that works out. They've said they like Marshawn Lynch. We are still expecting Marshawn Lynch to be the lead back, hopefully a workhorse. But yeah, they brought in Doug Martin, who's there with still present DeAndre Washington, Jalen Richard, Elijah Hood's still there as well. So it's a pretty congested backfield there. It's
running backs.
It's a lot of running backs. Derek Carr needs to play better, of course. The offensive line is very, very good. He's got pass-catching weapons. Though, I mean, the fact that they moved on from Michael Crabtree, it's got to be off the field because they weren't really – they didn't save anything by cutting him if they were doing a one-for-one swap with Jordy Nelson. I don't know. CJ, what are your thoughts?
I was like, maybe they weren't a fan of that fight between him and Khalid last year. I mean, I was pretty – I can see that being really embarrassing for ownership, even though
I would say that's the way
freaking amazing for us as fans.
Right. But, that's something the Raiders, they like to be that team, that intimidating team. I don't feel like that.
I don't think they like that, to be honest. But listen, so look, there's some defensive players on this team that got injured this past season that I'm looking forward to be able to see. There was a safety whose name is really hard to pronounce. I'm sorry I didn't take the time to practice it, but
Obi
real tall guy.
Fowler?
Yeah, that guy.
The second-round pick from last year? Yeah,
that one. He's going to be really good.
Freak physical body, yeah.
He's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Honestly, they made a bad mistake letting go of Crabtree. I just don't agree with it. Just because, when you say that you really want to build around Amari Cooper, that's when you start to lose me. Because he's not that guy.
8 seconds.
What?
8 seconds. Go.
I'm gonna say he's not that guy to me. So you're losing me, and I think you're gonna be losing Derek Carr because you're putting more pressure on Amari Cooper, and he's not built for it.
Yep, and they got 2 years older at the position. So that happened. All right, let's bring it home, guys. Home stretch. Woo! Shake it off. We're gonna take it over to the NFC West, and we're going to Jason's Arizona Cardinals, who have had an off season. Some good moves, some sad moves, but some moves have happened. Jason, why don't we just let you vent a little bit here?
Buddy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, obviously the quarterback was going to be the largest question mark, and they had already been talking about it forever moving forward. I thought they would make a play for Nick Foles, which they did, but the price tag was too high, so they passed on it. And then what I had been expecting the entire time, which was Sam Bradford to come over, is what happened. They went out and got him.
We all wanted to see that. That's awesome.
Exactly. I think it's a great fit, him in that offense, him with Larry Fitzgerald. Yes, everyone's concerned about the injury risk, but this is the bottom line. When this guy is healthy, he is lights out accurate. There are very few quarterbacks in the league that are as accurate as Sam Bradford is. He's very smart. He can break down an offense or a defense extremely easily. He can find his receivers and put them in the best possible position to take the ball all the way to the end zone. And now he's got J.J. Nelson. He's got David Johnson. He's got Larry Fitzgerald. He's got a lot of weapons and a lights-out defense. So I like this move, especially if they go and draft a quarterback, which is what we hope they do. My biggest issue with this offseason so far, they let go of Tyrann Mathieu. It's one of our best defensive players, and I just don't understand it. And again, it goes back to Steve Keim always trying to worry about the money, save the money. And I think he's done us a disservice in letting Honey Badger walk away. That's my biggest takeaway so far from this offseason.
Yeah, 17 players that are still just hanging out there, unrestricted free agents. The Arizona Cardinals, it's just crazy to me. Yeah, they saved money here, and it cleared some cap space because they were sitting at about $10 million under the cap. Now they're at about 22 almost. But, to get rid of one of your franchise players, a guy who can play every position in the defensive backfield, pairing that with Patrick Peterson, just your secondary, it was awesome, and definitely the strong point of your defense at this point. CJ, what are your thoughts? We got about 30 seconds left.
30 seconds. Well, I like Arizona. That's hometown. But, I think if I can speak, if Jason, let me know if I'm off key about this. I think, definitely in the draft, with the hierarchy as far as where they want to go for, it's got to go offensive line. It's got to go wide receiver. And you're probably going to have to go secondary as far as in the defense goes right there. Buda Baker, we like him. He's a good guy. He's still low, he's still raw though. He's still raw. He shows some promise. But I don't know if you want to go out with him year two and be set and you feel confident about that. So I think they want to upgrade that. And if you break with Sammy Hughes back there, you gotta have. I'm sorry, you gotta have talent at that wide receiver position outside of Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah, which is all they really have right now. J.J. Nelson's there as well. But Sam Bradford's also the only quarterback under contract. We all think they're going to get one in the draft. We'll see. Much more to talk about. We'll talk about it in the upcoming episodes. But we got to move on because we're out of time. Let's move on to the next team in the NFC West, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams, they have not had the offseason they were probably hoping for. They had hoped to retain Sammy Watkins. Didn't happen, as we already said. Went to the Chiefs for a monster contract, 3 years, $48 million. Tremaine Johnson, who was their top corner, is gone, but they already replaced him with two other very good corners, Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib, both top corners from within the division. Well, not actually, because they're actually from the AFC. So, yeah, from the west of the AFC. But, yeah, it's a team that was very good last year, and we're hoping takes another step, but losing what was arguably their top wide receiver definitely doesn't help things. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Rams thus far this offseason?
I mean, it's still good. Still young coach, still young core players. Letting go Tavon Austin was smart.
That was very smart.
Bad contract. You got other people that you can get to fill that position. So I'm not mad at them when it comes to this. They just, I'm looking forward to the draft. You start to see some players that Sean McVay likes more in year two of him drafting, and be able to get a good idea of that and see what other gems he can bring to this team.
Yep, Jason.
Yeah, I like what they've done so far. They went out and they have got just a nasty pair of corners now in Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. I mean, that's an upgrade in my opinion. And then my biggest thing for them is they let Alec Ogletree walk out the door. That I think is what's going to hurt them more, maybe even more than Sammy Watkins leaving, because they still got a lot of good weapons on offense. You got Cooper Kupp there, and you've got Robert Woods is still there. So you got a lot of decent weapons still, and they'll probably find some younger guys in the draft. But overall, this is still a scary team, and they've done what they needed to do this offseason so far.
Yeah, I mean, the team, they did what they had to, like we said. It sucks that they lost Sammy Watkins. Tavon Austin was a great move, though they still had to eat a pretty sizable cap hit for him. They'll be basically clear of it. I mean, it sucks for this year, but moving forward. But they still have $35 million under the cap. So it definitely sucks that they lost one of their top wide receivers. Though, again, they've got plenty of other guys that we like still under contract, and this offense is still going to move. Todd Gurley is, of course, still there as their running back. Jared Goff's still the quarterback. They still have Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp as well, wide receivers that we definitely like. A couple other names that aren't really household names, but we'll see. Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett kind of leave something to be desired at tight end. But I have faith in Sean McVay to be able to tool his offense to get it done, especially in another year in the system to get it going. But we've got to move on. The next team we're going to talk about is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers, they have been busy. And they've been busy overpaying, I feel like, because holy crap. They paid Jerick McKinnon a 4-year, $30 million contract. Makes him one of the top 5 paid running backs in the league. Jerick McKinnon, a guy who has on many occasions gotten the starting workload, and on every one of those occasions proven he is not a standalone starting running back. I don't know, guys, what do you think about this? They brought in Richard Sherman, of course, as well, so that brings them some secondary help. They lost Carlos Hyde, so Jerick McKinnon steps into that role, but I don't know. What do you guys think about the 49ers this offseason? Because they've spent money. That they've done.
The main issue that I think I have with them is the amount of money they did spend. I like the moves they've made. I mean, Jerick McKinnon is not a bad addition, especially if you think that Joe Williams is going to be the starting running back, is going to be that 1-2 down back, and then you got Jerick McKinnon back there as an option back. So I like that. Richard Sherman, oh God, I wish he'd have gone to a different division. But yeah, he's still in our division, and he is one of the top corners in the league. So that was a nice move. You just gotta love the way that this team operates in the off season. So far, 2 great off seasons under Lynch. The only thing is, again, I do think they paid a bit much I think they're so far under the cap that it didn't bother them that much.
Oh, yeah.
But eventually that's going to come back and bite them, though. You know,
Yeah.
So they need to be a little bit more careful with their money.
I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm about to say, yeah, I agree. I would agree with you guys, and I definitely agree with Jason's last comment. This is going to bite them eventually down the road, but right now they're focused on trying to win and acquire much talent. It is now the Jerry McKinnon signing. I see why a lot of people scoff at it because of the money. Well, you got to look at him in that system, and with and being in Shanahan's system and Shanahan. Using him, man, I think it can. As far as fantasy goes, I think that's going to be a good pickup for you as far as fantasy. That's a low key guy that you can draft, and he has high upside just because in that system. And I think he could be I really think he can be a Freeman in that system. Not the rushing. Not necessarily the rushing, but definitely the receiving. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, we thought this was a team that was going to be really all in and getting some of these top receivers. They missed out on them, but they still have Marquise Lee, a guy who we really like. Pierre Garçon in another year. They signed Jimmy Garoppolo, who's under contract, obviously. I mean, the team still has $64.3, almost $0.4 million to play with. They have Kyle Juszczyk at fullback, who is a Swiss Army knife of a player. He can do tight end, running back, and fullback. But Jerick McKinnon, to me, with that amount of money, there's an expression that you hear from time to time that you say you have to follow the money. And these teams pay these guys, so they're going to play these guys. So Jerick McKinnon, I fully expect to be the starting running back. I think he's going to get the majority of the work, and I think that Joe Williams will be used in the red zones. I think it's going to be a little bit contrary to how people initially thought going into the year. We all like Joe Williams as being possibly the upside guy and possibly the workload guy, but we don't know. And we're out of time. Crap. All right, well, so yeah, we did it, guys. Shake it off. How you feeling? We made it around the league.
No, we didn't.
Didn't we? Oh, no, did we forget one?
Seattle?
Oh, no. Oh, we totally forgot one. Do we have to talk about them?
Seahawks fans. Seahawks fans. Just remember who forgot you.
Yeah,
it wasn't the Cardinals guy.
Sorry, Seahawks
it was the
fans.
other guy.
Well, look, we talked about Richard Sherman, and it threw me, all right? Okay, last team. Then we can shake it off. We've got the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks have been purging players left and right. I would say that they have not had an exciting offseason for fans. It's been a tough offseason for them. Losing Jimmy Graham, Paul Richardson, obviously Richard Sherman, trading away Martellus Bennett. This team, they're purging right now. And a lot of people are thinking that they're past retooling and they're blowing it up. They're rebuilding. They're going into a transitional period. This is a team that's switching their focus defensively, and they're trying to find a new offensive identity, building around certain players. So the Seahawks taking a step back by most accounts. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Yeah,
I need to.
Absolutely. Especially in this division. I mean, you're in this division with these defenses, and now you're getting these offenses going. In the Rams, and you're looking at a Jimmy Garoppolo-led 49ers. Yeah, this team is going to have to reload. They're going to have to completely rebuild because you can't come at us in this division with what they got now. You can't lose all your weapons and then try to win in this division. It's not going to happen. You're going to get your butt kicked. So, yeah, I think they're rebuilding.
I love how Jason keeps saying "come at us." The Cardinals are going to be, a contender this year. So I think
CJ, who finishes last in the division?
Oh, you think that's
well, to be honest, listen, just mute Jason real quick so he doesn't hear it. But the Cardinals, they're finishing last. They're finishing last. Well, listen, so look, Seattle, they need to do it. They need to blow this up. So it needs to happen. I mean, I hope that they actually get something for Earl Thomas. I know that's something that's going in the wings. Hopefully they can trade him and get some more picks. But this ever since that Russell Wilson contract, man, this team has not been drafting too well ever since that.
Yeah. And
it's been showing up. So this is time for their GM to just get the smelling salt, wake back up.
Yep.
The Super Bowl, it happened, but if you want to get back there and start being competitive again, you got to start refocusing on building this offensive lineup, keeping your quarterback healthy, replenishing the talent on the defensive line. If you're going to build this team now around Bobby Wagner, let's be about that quick, fast, and a hurry, because right now this team is hurting.
Yeah, and, Sheldon Richardson, another example of a guy they paid a lot of money to, and now he is gone. So, yeah, this team, they're they're definitely, like we've said a number of times now, I don't want to keep harping on it, they're definitely rebuilding. They're gonna take probably a year or two before they can be competitive, but they've got some cap space. They've got about $27.79 million, basically $27.8 million to play with right now, so they can still make some moves. Hopefully, shore up some stuff. But they need offensive line help. They need weapons. They need defensive replacements. They need a lot. But we are out of time. All right, now we shake it off. We did it. Now we've been around the league. Hey, so oh man, how do you guys feel? We made it. We survived.
Oh man, well, I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
Yes,
because I already hate it already.
Do you hate it because we know that by the time we record on Tuesday that all of this will be different?
No, I hate it because it's 3 a.m. and
spoiler alert.
People get to listen to this at their leisure.
That's the beauty of podcasts. It's on-demand audio. We don't need your dang negativity, CJ. Jeez.
Hey,
Jason, what are your thoughts? You feeling good? We made it?
That's all CJ's got.
That's true.
Don't take away his niche.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. I would never do that, CJ.
You're forgiven.
Jason, do you feel good? We made it. We survived.
Sure. Yeah. No, we did a good job. And you know what? We hit every single team, and it's been a while.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get out of here.
Yeah. Another bit of news that we forgot to mention as well. This is just a little side news. Offensive lineman Joe Thomas for the Cleveland Browns. He did decide to call it a career, retiring after 11 seasons. An Ironman, 10-year-in-a-row Pro Bowler. Probably the best thing that's ever happened to the Cleveland Browns. Since
it's unfortunate he had to be there.
I don't know about ever happened, but yeah.
Since they came back into the league, I would say so. Absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah.
I was gonna say, dang.
Yeah. So, yeah, calling it a career, that's the kind of guy he is. It's sad to see that, this is a year they might actually do something. They've been making so many moves and splashes, but he said that mentally...
He's seen this before. He's seen this roller coaster before. He's like, oh, not again.
That's true. He said mentally he's willing, but his body's just not keeping up. It's a physical thing more than anything, so it is what it is. So, yeah, that's going to do it for us today. Please make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday when we're going to be bringing you guys, I'm sure, a ton of updates that happen over the weekend as free agency powers on and a lot more teams change, or a lot more players change teams, whether that be trades or signing contracts. So it should be fun. Subscribe wherever you're listening, and make sure you guys follow us on Twitter. That's the place you can get all these updates in between recordings. That's on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. 3 Fs at the FF Fanatics. Or you can follow us individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF, CJ's at CJ Hickman89, and Jason is at Jason Cabrera13. So with that, we're out of here. Any parting thoughts, guys?
Hey guys, have a good weekend as always, and come on, man, check our Facebook page out, man. Like us, visit us.
Basically, search for the Fantasy Football Fanatics anywhere, and you'll probably find us. Anything from you, Jason?
We'll be there. Well, guys, enjoy, man. Keep your eye on that on the waiver wire. Excuse me. Keep an eye on that ticker and see some of those names are going to be coming off next couple days.
I mean, these players are kind of on the real-life waiver wire, kind of.
True.
All right, so we're out of here. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.